Good morning, my friends. This is the Grim Flayer. I hope you're doing very well today. Welcome to another Grim gameplay, this one featuring Ad Nauseam. Ad Nauseam is my favorite combo deck, and I'm not a big combo player, but I have played a few combo decks here and there in my day. I've played Ad Nauseam once in the past on the channel in a league, and about 4 years ago, maybe a little more, when I was pretty new to Modern, I actually owned Ad Nauseam in paper. And so I like to stay in touch with the deck, revisit it every now and then. We're doing so today. Number one, because again, it's fun, it's one of my favorite decks, especially in the combo archetype. But why specifically today above and beyond that? Well, my friends, today is Sunday. Tomorrow is Monday. The Monday, to be exact, of the ban announcement, or at least that's what we expect. Could be an announcement, but probably the ban list is going to be updated Monday. And there are uncomfortable amounts of calls to me for Simian Spirit Guide to be banned, and as the founder and the CEO of the Ape Defense Squad, I cannot permit this, I cannot condone it, I will not allow it, and my organization will be taking the fight to Wizards of the Coast, believe me, if this happens. But if the unthinkable happens and they ban our beloved Simian Spirit Guide, well, you know, at least we got one last swing in with Ad Nauseam before our spiritual guru bit the dust. So I still don't think that's that likely to happen, but just in case, we might as well play some Ad Nauseam today. So thank you for watching. Hey, thank you to our newest Patreon supporters. We have a new Inquisitor, Jeffrey Gao. Thank you for signing up, my friend. And we have the wonderful Gold Sabertooth, one of the very best supporters, super cool guy, going all the way up to Of the Veil, upgrading from the tireless tier all the way to the highest tier of Patreon support. Gold Sabertooth, you are Of the Veil. Thank you so much, guys. Thanks to all their Patreon supporters. And then we're going to talk, we're going to do a little bit of a deck. We're going to do the Grim gameplay thing after that. So let's get in. Alright, so in brief, this is how the combo works. There are two combos built into the deck. The first one we'll talk about is the namesake card Ad Nauseam plus a white enabler. Angel's Grace or Phyrexian Unlife, either effect will pair nicely with Ad Nauseam. Ad Nauseam, if you cast it the fair way, which, don't get me wrong, that happens some amount of the time, you're kind of playing like a hyperspeed version of Bob being active for 4 turns or so. So you're flipping cards, you're revealing them, and then you're losing life equal to their converted mana cost, putting them into your hand, right? So if you hardcast an Ad Nauseam without any of these white enablers, you can say, okay, flip a card, take 3, I'll go again, flip a card, take 0 because it's a Lotus Bloom, go again, it's a land, go again, oh, I take 1, okay, I take 3 again, maybe I'll stop there. But if you have resolved an Angel's Grace before you cast Ad Nauseam, or you have a Phyrexian Unlife on the field and unanswered, you can just draw your entire library, put your entire library into your hand, and you'll be at, you know, like negative 38 life or something, but you will not lose because of these white effects, and then you can kill the opponent one of 2 ways. Simian Spirit Guide, this is where our guru comes in. Exile, 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 cast Lightning Storm holding priority, and discarding lands to put charge counters on Lightning Storm. This is a really bizarre design. It is an instant that can gain charge counters on the stack. So you draw your whole deck, you've got a bunch of lands in there, you discard enough lands to kill the opponent with a Lightning Storm. 3 for the Lightning Storm as a baseline, and then 2 for every land card you discard. Alternatively, if you have all 4 Simian Guides, which if you haven't had to use them to go off, you will, or they haven't been discarded or what have you, you can then, also if you have an extra land or 2 untapped after having gone off, you can do it that way too. You can then make double blue one way or another, usually involving Pentad Prism, for Thassa's Oracle, and simply win the game when she resolves. Now, in either case, you might say, well, isn't it a little risky to draw your whole deck, right? Because the opponent could be really patient with their counter spells, blow out your final win condition, whether it be Lightning Storm or Thassa's Oracle, and then you'll lose on your next draw step because you don't have any cards left in your library. Well, this is all protected by Pact of Negation, right? So that's how the main combo works. That's how Ad Nauseam has worked for quite a long time. But the printing of Thassa's Oracle not only is a more efficient and overall better alternate win condition to Lightning Storm than Laboratory Maniac used to be. That used to be the alternate win con. Thassa's Oracle also now has an entire secondary combo built right around her. You don't even need to cast Ad Nauseam in the Ad Nauseam deck to combo off anymore. Angel's Grace or Phyrexian Unlife, plus Spoils of the Vault, naming a card that is not in your deck to completely exile your entire library, followed by a Thassa's Oracle, is a combo that only needs 4 mana to go off, as opposed to the 6 or 8 from Grace or Unlife plus Ad Nauseam. However, the color demands are, relatively severe. 2 blue, 1 white, 1 black, and it is a 3-card combo, whereas the Ad Nauseam combo is only 2 cards. But it is kind of beautiful how it all comes together. You can combo off really consistently on turn 3 if undisrupted with Thassa's Oracle plus Grace plus Spoils of the Vault, and Spoils is a card that even before Thassa's Oracle was printed, saw play in Ad Nauseam, not as a 4 of, I think more like a 2 or 3 of, but it's, a high-risk tutor card, basically, and just like Ad Nauseam can be cast in a quote-unquote fair way, so can Spoils of the Vault. After that, after incorporating the understanding of all the combo pieces and how they work, we basically have 2 other categories of card, and also Pact of Negation, protecting the combo, right? We have 2 other categories of card. We have Sleight of Hand and Serum Visions for cantrips, and we have Lotus Blooms, Pentad Prisms, and Simian Spirit Guide for fast mana. This deck is not interested in mana dorks or even in traditional mana rocks. You need to make a big burst of mana one time and win the game there. You don't need to keep ramping over the course of the game. That is why you see cards like Prism and Bloom that don't see play in a great deal else seeing play here. The other thing to mention in the main deck is that Pact of Negation plus Angel's Grace is kind of a build-your-own force of will. If you need to use the Pact before you have 5 mana available, and before you can combo off just to stop the opponent from winning, you can do that as long as you have an Angel's Grace. So you cast the Pact to counter their game-winning spell, then you untap, and on your upkeep, the Pact of Negation trigger will go on the stack. It says, at the beginning of your next upkeep, pay 5. If you don't, you lose the game. In response to that, you cast Angel's Grace, which says you cannot lose the game this turn, and your opponents can't win. So you cast the Angel's Grace, then you say, no, I will not pay for the Pact. It's a build-your-own force of will. You can also, in some cases, just combo off then and there, right? If you have Grace and Ad Nauseam, it's all instant speed. You can even win the game with your own Pact of Negation on the stack. Kind of cool. The land base is definitely interesting. We've got some fitting Tempest Plains, I think. I think they fit the deck very nicely. And we've got some Rainbow lands, beautiful old bordered Gemstone Mine, City of Brass. And then we've got a bunch of beautiful new promos. Temple of Deceit, Temple of Enlightenment. These are Scry lands, ETB tapped. You have a single Clearwater Pathway, which is a nice fit in this deck. And then we have some of the Zendikar Rising Expeditions. I believe these are very nice printings of Seachrome Coast and Dark Slit Shores. Again, I think these lands fit the characteristics of the deck thematically very nicely. So I'm excited, as always, to be able to play with some nice-looking cards here for you. And then in the sideboard, for Leyline of Sanctity is mandatory. Very, very good against the type of interaction that we love on this channel. And Veil of Summer is kind of a 5th such effect that's also good against counter magic. We have another Pact of Negation, speaking of being good against counter magic, and a couple copies of Spell Pierce, which will often be involved in doing the same type of thing. You can beat the opponent's payoffs with this, but perhaps more often you're protecting your own combo with it, right? Another card that helps beat Permission is Grand Abolisher. It can even get in for some beats, and the Simian Spirit Guide, Grey Ogre mode, that's the plan D, right? Running along the ground with your 2/2s. But Grand Abolisher, during your turn, your opponents cannot cast spells or activate abilities of artifacts, creatures, or enchantments. Good way to force them to not beat you on the stack. 3 copies of Path to Exile as a very universally live removal spell. A Slaughter Pact, which has similar utility to Pact of Negation in terms of how it fits in the structure of the deck and is more removal as well. This is especially good for taking care of Hate Bears on the turn you combo off, stuff like that. And finally, a Wear and Tear, some nice flexible non-traditional interaction. So that is what Ad Nauseam looks like. I've cribbed this list from Goldfish. I believe it was a second place challenge finish, and I've made only one change. The list that I have linked below only had one sleight of hand, and it had 3 Pact of Negation main deck for a total of 4 in the 75. That's probably correct, especially given the meta they were playing at the time. As for me, as a more novice Ad Nauseam player, I like to cantrip a little more. I don't like drawing multiple Pacts of Negation and having no way to even make them into a Force of Will, right? So that's just my little tweak. It might not be better, but it's what I'm going to do here. Let's get into some games. Thanks again for watching. Let's have some fun. Alright, my friends, this opening hand's pretty terrible. I'm going to mulligan. I don't like to mulligan functional hands generally, but I think we're supposed to there. We will keep this one. It's a good hand. I think I'm going to bottom 1 Lotus Bloom to have more redundancy against discard and permission to actually assemble the combo. 1 Lotus Bloom should be sufficient to combo off given relatively normal draws. Definitely a Utopia Sprawl deck. Well, it's a little scary on the play, right? Just run out our basic planes here. Obviously, Blood Moon and Land Destruction are likelihoods in a what appears to be a Gruul deck, a Ponza deck. But in theory, yeah, Pillage, sure. In theory, it's kind of 6-1, half dozen of the other. Like, we can fix our mana with Bloom and with Pentad Prism, even if we're getting Blood Mooned well enough. Okay, opponent with a no play on turn 4, that's wild. Or on turn 4. Yeah, it's turn 3, 4 mana, no play. And there we are. So, assuming no destruction of our Pentad Prism or Lotus Bloom next turn, we've got the kill ready to roll. Even if they Blood Moon us now, we've got the kill ready to roll. Lightning Bolt, sure. Lightning Bolt, sure. Opponent kept a lot of bolts, which is good in a lot of matchups. Not very good against us. I'm sure this matchup is reasonable for us, but they've got a lot of progressions that would be a problem, right? This one, though, I have to say, is not one of them so far, unless they've got something up their sleeve with 2 green sources untapped. Hey, there's another Plains just for fun. Okay, let's just go for the classic kill. And that's the game. Got it. Okay. Opponent not going to make us execute the combo. And against Gruul, I want my Wear and Tear to slow them down early. And they also maybe to beat some certain hate pieces. I think Spell Pierce is okay. Echoing Truth is okay. I probably don't want to side all that heavily, though, having said all of that. This might be a matchup where we can side out our Lightning Storm, let the record state I'm no Ad Nauseam expert. That could be wrong. Maybe I'll do it, though. I think I kind of enjoy the prospect of tempoing them out with Echoing Truth. So let's go 1 Truth, 1 Pierce. We'll cut a single Pact of Negation. I think about 1 is correct. And maybe cut a single Sleight of Hand, or maybe Spoils of the Vault, but I'll cut a Sleight here. I think that's fine. OP keeping 7, so will we. We're vulnerable to Blood Moon. We're not especially vulnerable to Land Destruction, though. And that's at least half the battle. Whoa, Arboreal Grazer. Interesting. Hey, we draw Plains. We'll take it. So often I like to lead on a tap land before playing a Serum Visions, but we don't have enough to do in this hand. I'm just going to cast the Serum right away, and look, we're rewarded. We get to bottom 2 lands after having drawn another. We are very flooded. Again, against a land destruction deck, is that the worst place to be? No, probably not. But still, we do need to do other things besides make land drops here. OP with a Trinisphere. It's a pretty good hate piece against us. Us with a Lotus Bloom, sure. Suspend it. Wish I could pay. Ooh, interesting. Pentad Prism. See, the presence of Trinisphere makes me want this a little bit more, but I still think I'm supposed to bottom it. We just need other things, right? We need other things. We have a lot of land drops in hand. Opponent hasn't really put pressure on quite yet. Valakut Exploration. Well, there's some pressure. Or some advantage. Cindervines. This is the type of thing I was thinking about with Wear and Tear. Fascinating. Alright, another land for us. This is not where we want to be. But hey, a Cindervines went unused, basically. Just got turned into a deal 1. A second Trinisphere. Yeah, OP's finds off of this haven't been perfect, but they have had a pretty good progression despite that. Klothys is whatever, technically a win condition. In practice, it's a little slow unless maybe they can make her into a creature. More lands for us. Oh, yay. Oh, yay. Yeah, I guess we just play a Clearwater Pathway here. Just trying to draw, like, the missing combo piece, either straight up Ad Nauseam for the win, or Thassa's Oracle, which in conjunction with Spoils in hand would enable us to go off. We also can consider, well, hold up, let's turn off auto yields. We can consider on the unstep Spoilsing for an Ad Nauseam if we think we're just a little less likely to get there without it. Maybe now we can't because they're pillaging one of our lands. And maybe I should have played this as a Murkwater Pathway with all these samey-looking new printings. I didn't realize we only had 1 black. Obviously, 3 rainbow lands in hand is totally fine. So Pillage is gonna get us here. Let's just let that happen, see what else happens. So for this turn, we tread water with Lotus Bloom, which is the opposite of what you want to do with it, but Angel's Grace will do that to you. All right, let's say go. Still just looking for the Ad Naus or the Oracle. If the opponent goes for some destruction, okay, they're just Stone Raining. Annoying, but sure. And a 3-mana Lightning Bolt. Hey, speeding up that clock. Alright, what can we draw? Simian Spirit Guide. Not really good enough, so 3-mana Spoils, again, due to the Stone Rain, is not quite enough for us. At this point, I'm not that worried about getting Blood Moon should we expose our plains. We're starting to run out of black sources if we have to, like, Spoils and Bloom on different turns, but I think I'm going to play 1 more black source one time, just in case we want to Spoils on the unstep here. Three-mana Utopia Sprawl, got it. Alright, are we supposed to spoils for the ad nauseam here? I think I'm gonna go for it. Yeah, it was right on top, basically. Sweet. Alright, let's make it happen. Couldn't find a blood moon to save my life, lol. Yeah, I mean, we're halfway worried about that, I guess. But we'll just get to make our land drop here and play an Oracle, and that'll be game. Hope you're gonna make us do it this time, which you understand. There we go. GG's well played, beating the Trinisphere Lock, the Land Destruction, and the Blood Moon in Game 1. Pretty cool stuff. Alright, looks like a reasonable-ish keep to me. We lack mana acceleration, but we have a selection with Temple and Serum Visions, and we have redundancy in case the opponent is discarding us out, right? With double ad nauseam plus a spoils. I've seen better hands, more balanced hands, but I think overall this is fine. I'm topping any mana source there, so happy enough with that. Site of City of Brass. OP on Bloodstained Mire, go. With the Lurrus Avi and the Bloodstained Mire. Maybe we're against a Rakdos deck that didn't have turn 1 discard, but there's no Lurrus, right? Very easy selection here of bottom Lightning Storm, top Phyrexian Unlife, which seems good against just about anything. And if we want to do something cute, we could even end step spoils, naming Unlife just to basically cantrip if we don't think we need spoils of the vault itself. We're probably not supposed to because we do have the spoils Thassa's Oracle combo in hand, and we don't have the mana to cast ad nauseam anytime soon, so we're probably not supposed to do that, but it is intriguing. We do look like we might be against a Shadow deck, but no Lurrus Companion. And they're just going to concede. I guess they didn't find what they needed. They see the writing on the wall with respect to no discard, plus us setting ourselves up with some scries to the top, I guess. I'm going to play Paths to Exile, Leyline of Sanctity, Veil of Summer. And we're going to cut probably both packs of negation. Probably both sleights of hand, and then we have to trim around the edges. We're going to hope maybe Lightning Storm's not a necessarily required win condition here. I guess we'll do that. And then we will maybe trimming the mana sources in the face of interaction a little bit makes sense, and cut a spoils of the vault. It's all a little arbitrary. I could be amenable to the idea that I have not sideboarded optimally here, but I think against what we saw, bringing the cards in that we're bringing is correct. Don't know exactly what the best way to trim around the edges is, but something like this, at least in the ballpark, I hope. OP will mulligan, I'll keep. It's functional. It's got a lot of what we like to see. If we are correct in our estimation as to what our opponent's playing, this is going to be a fine keep. I would love Leyline of Sanctity, obviously, but I'm not going to go mulling deep for it. Throwing back a functional hand is, you know, at best you're treading water that way. Okay, so we are against probably a Jund Shadow deck, or maybe even Grixis Shadow, playing no companion. Another Unlife. Sure. We're going to lead on Temple rather than Serum Visions here. I think we can bottom Angel's Grace, having drawn double Unlife. Yeah, Jund confirmed. So OP valuing Street Wraiths over the Companion, basically. That's what we're seeing here. One nice thing about Ad Nauseam is that you have many progressions where you don't take any points of damage off of your own stuff, and therefore Scourges of the Skyclaves can rot in the opponent's hand until they manage to turn them on. And that's another reason Leyline of Sanctity is good. You know, you're like shutting off bolts, maybe rotting Scourge in hand even longer. OP with the Thoughtseize that they probably found off of the Street Wraith, the second one. They take Ad Nauseam. That makes a lot of sense. It is the missing, you know, the redundant piece of the hand, basically. We draw another land, which is not very good. OP with a 4/4 Shadow on turn 2 is pretty impressive, but we blind Serum into another Ad Naus, which is fine. So if we're planning to go turn 3 on life, we don't really need the Pentad Prism. I think we're probably supposed to go turn 3 on life, so let's bottom Prism. It's just a little, just kind of at the wrong spot to accelerate us, I think. We've got plenty of lands. And spoils we can probably top, just in case, just for redundancy in case of another Thoughtseize, or also, you know, it's kind of the break glass in case of emergency button here for us. But we're hoping that Unlife just keeps us alive. We stroll to a casual turn 5 kill on the back of it keeping our life total high and comboing with Ad Nauseam. 4/4 Shadow on turn 2 is relatively impressive, but fortunately they were not able to grow it anymore. I think that means a lot. You know, if they've got the Disenchant effect for our Unlife, things could get ugly. There's a Scourge. Okay, we'll deploy Clearwater Pathway as Murkwater Pathway instead. That's pretty cool. These are some beautiful full arts from Johannes Voss. Shadow's gonna grow. What do we have here? Traverse. Yep, a very traditional Jund Traverse Shadow deck. Going for Street Wraith. Oh boy, that's frightening. We'll see what this is. I was almost expecting a tutor target that would beat Unlife, but they don't seem to have that quite now. So if they don't have any instant speed responses, Simian Guide would be lethal off the top. We don't have it, but we have an Angel's Grace, and I think that's actually a pretty fine one. Okay, so let's go Gemstone Mine. Deploy a backup Unlife, I guess. And then Angel's Grace on their upkeep. And then next turn, barring a Thoughtseize, I guess we've almost certainly got to have them dead to rights here. No Lightning Bolt in response. Good, good. Some double strike action can still be a little scary. There's a lot of ways they could still have us here. Just speaking generally here. Look at that 16/16 Scourge of the Skyclaves. What a beautiful sight. City of Brass. Alright, let's go for the kill. Is that game? That's game. Alright, very, very nice. And, you know, a little sketchy there. One, yeah, but a pretty nice victory all in all. One thing that's kind of funny to mention, just by the by, I did actually side out Lightning Storm, but assuming we hadn't, or assuming it's a game 1, there are circumstances where the Shadow player will get really aggressive with their life total like this, and you can kill them with like a Lightning Storm for 5, just hard cast out of the hand. Definitely something to keep in mind when you're on this deck against any Shadow variant, but as it is, didn't need to cheese them out with Lightning Storm. It was as we wanted, the good old-fashioned stroll up to the turn 5 kill. Alright, this hand's a little weird. I think I'm going to send it back. There's too many things that don't quite come together, and obviously we'll mull to a no-land 6, which I would happily trade for our kept 7, because now we're going to 5 in a blind game 1. This doesn't mean it's over, but it does mean we are punished for the mulligan decision. We'll keep this. I think we're just going to bottom Pact of Negation and a backup Ad Nauseam, and hope that we can develop our mana a little bit and find a piece of the combo before the opponent kills us. But it's another Arbor Elf deck. What's up with these? What is up with our good friends, the Arbor Elves? They've got it out for us today, my friends. You know they do. Ponza making a comeback. At least with this very small sample size. But I think there's some truth to it. The only reason it's not like a top-tier deck is Scourge of the Skyclaves and Death Shadow, those decks, and, you know, if you are willing to accept the bad beats there, then who knows. But thankfully there's no Blood Moon or land destruction before the crucial turn 2 where we can get our Pentad Prism down. It is simply a Spyro pitching some lands. I guess OP kept a 6 that is flooding right out of the gates. The draw of a second Ad Nauseam is really bad here. We need other things, almost anything else more than that. We need land drops, we need many, many things. If this had been a land drop, we would then be an Angel's Grace away from a turn 3 kill, so that'd be cool. On a multi-5. Magus of the Moon, alright, that sucks. We are... Now, it's going to be a lot harder for us to go off. So, in a couple different ways, like, Plains would be a good draw here. We don't get it. We get Dark Slick Shore, so we can hardcast an Ad Nauseam, but at the cost of our Pentad Prism. Alternatively, we could play Simian Spirit Guide as a blocker, but, you know, they probably got a Bolt or something. I think I might hardcast Ad Naus. It's a pretty, like, if this isn't a good spot to do it, when is, right? They still have, like, enough pressure, and the Blood Moon is enough hate, the Magus of the Moon, rather, enough hate, that it's probably still going to be not good enough for us to get there. But if we get some really nice runs off the top... Yeah, I think we're supposed to. Alright, here goes nothing. Good old hardcast Ad Nauseam, just as intended. We take 2, we take none, we take none, we take none, we take 3. Alright, we're dead to a lightning bolt already. Do we keep going? I'm going to say no, we don't keep going. Let's try to, like, play a Simian Guide to stay alive. Somehow stay alive a little bit more and resolve a Bloom, or just draw Plains. We just draw Plains. Let's just draw the Plains, no big deal. Well, I should have gone at least one more, but we'll take it, right? Okay, suspending, Lotus Bloom. Playing a good old Phyrexian Unlife, buying ourselves some turns here. Hopefully enough to win. Next turn we can make a Pentad Prism for 2. And the following turn we can Ad Nauseam. So next turn it'll be Mountain, Pentad Prism for 2 Simian Guide to block, I guess. Ooh, opponent with a Stomp on the end step. Yeah, that's a little rough. Just speeding up that clock. We thought they might have a Bolt, and in fact they have Stomp. Same energy, but maybe better for them if they have nothing else to do. They just get to jam the Bone Crusher here. The Arbor Elf beats have proven mightily relevant. So we're not quite dead on board, especially with the Simian Guide blocker, but even without him, we're not quite dead. There is another Unlife. Pretty useless as far as I can tell. Alright. This is the Ape Defense Squad. Let's go. Let's go. Oh no! Oh no, I'm used to, like... I just completely missed the combo. Okay, well, as long as they don't have, like, 2 bolts, we're not gonna get punished for it. But I am so used to Pentad Prism not enabling you to combo that turn. Because, to be clear, it usually never does. Alright, so I'll explain my punt in a minute. Let's just block the biggest damage here so we're not even dead to double bolt, although if they had it, they wouldn't have attacked that way, but they would have bolted first. But whatever, you get it. So, usually Pentad Prism does not change what's going on, but because I'm Blood Mooned, it did. Obviously, we're just supposed to add Nauseam right then and there, but hey, never punished. And we now, look, oh, it was all part of the plan, because now you see we have Pact of Negation to protect our combo. Why would you ever doubt me? That was funny. That was bad. But again, usually Pentad Prism ramps you for a future turn. It's not like, oh, I play a Pentad Prism and then I get to combo off, right? It's not usually how this deck operates. But in this case, it did, and I should have seen that. But I'm rusty with ad nauseam. I was never an expert. And I am just having fun here playing, so forgive me. You know, if I make one error, there are 5 different people who make the same exact comment. I can't wait for that here. But at least I noticed it. Maybe people only say it when I don't notice it, and that's fair. Anyway, we stumble to a Game 1 win in the face of an interesting rule progression. Not a perfect one, but certainly not a bad one either. I think I want my Echoing Truth here to beat Hate Pieces and to tempo them out. Probably just Wear and Tear and then run it back, although if they're on Magus and not Blood Moon, Wear gets a little bit worse, but still probably supposed to play it. Trinisphere, Utopia Sprawl, among other things. I am going to play with 1 copy of Pact of Negation and trim a Serum Visions. We'll see how this works for us, but should be relatively on point. Trying a couple different things here across my testing against Gruul, which apparently is the gauntlet we have to run today, but let's run it like this time. Alright, I think we keep the hand with the Mono Rocks against the Ponza deck. Could still definitely be a little too slow on the draw, you know, but they don't have a turn 1 play? Wow, that's a reprieve. Alright, Seachrome Coast, go. I was about to start wondering if we're supposed to Simian Guide out a Pentad Prism before the Land Destruction or Blood Moon happens, but not with them having no T1 play. That makes me think they might have a way to destroy Artifact or Enchantment in hand. Renin 6? Sure. I mean, that also makes sense, but it's not a card we care as much about as I do when I'm on other decks. That is for darn sure. And look at us. We have the combo all rolled up. So if they don't destroy our Pentad Prism, and they also don't Blood Moon us, or land destruction us, we are going to turn 3 him on the back of the 3-card combo. Oracle, Vault, Angel's Grace. Hopefully this is none of the above. Admittedly, that's a wide range of cards that we're hoping to fade. If they land destruction us and we just draw another land, we could still get there. Maybe actually Simian Guide and Pentad Prism enables us to get there. As you can see, I'm still kind of finding my feet with revisiting Ad Nauseam, but it doesn't matter because OP's just tapping out for a good old Spyro. Hey, Spyro's a nutty card, but not that great against us. So let's show him what the meaning of the combo is. Hey, we never didn't have it. Gemstone Mine off the top. So OP needed a Blood Moon, basically, I think, to beat us here. Spoils naming. Serene Remembrance. In honored remembrance of OP, we will name Serene Remembrance. That's a bit of a tongue twister. And then it is GG. So here we go. Hey, nowhere near an Ad Nauseam master. Made at least one misplay. We still are kind of cruising through the matches. Feels good. Admittedly, some Gruul seems like a pretty decent matchup, right? But they have a lot of tools, a lot of things to worry about. But we did get there twice today. Alright, my friends, so those were some Ad Nauseam games. I will play more after I'm done recording this, because this deck to me is really fun to just get some swings in, especially when you're not playing for super high stakes. I would just need to get more expertise with the deck before I was really comfortable doing that, but this is a fun one to take some swings with, to me. It's a fun little puzzle to solve on your own end. Obviously, dealing with the opponent's interaction presents its own problems, and now that it's got a couple different win conditions, it just makes the deck that much more interesting to me. Again, I know this is not everybody's cup of tea, but those were some fun ones. It's an example of what the deck can do even in rusty hands, and hands that have never been that perfectly suited to the task, right? I've never developed an expertise with this deck, but I've played it here, I've played it there. Like I said in the beginning, I believe I like to stay in touch with the deck, and it's always fun one to play against on mid-range, for me, if you ask me. You know, they top deck the missing combo piece when you have them dead the next turn. That can suck, but broadly speaking, compared to most of Modern, I'm happy to face Ad Nauseam. So, speaking of facing Ad Nauseam, how do we beat this with mid-range? So hopefully, if you were unfamiliar with the deck, now you are more familiar with the deck having seen me play it. And because you're familiar with the deck, you now know where the combos can come together. So you want to keep in mind what the two combos are exactly. Ad Nauseam, again, plus one of the white enablers. That's combo A. Combo B, and that's a 2-card 6-mana combo. Combo B is Spoils of the Vault plus Thassa's Oracle plus one of the white enablers, which is a 4-mana 3-card combo. So keep that in mind. You need turn 1 hand information and attrition if possible. Obviously, Leyline and Veil of Summer can put a stop to that, but assuming you have that, number 1, that's the type of opener you want. Number 2, you need to start thinking from the Ad Nauseam player's perspective. You need to start kind of piecing it together, saying, alright, what exactly are they going for? If they've got a handful of cantrips, that's a little bit tougher. Serum Visions is generally a higher priority target to take because it sets them up for better top decks. The big exception to that, if you're looking at a hand of cantrips on turn 1, is if the opponent's on the draw, maybe you take their Sleight of Hand away because that can help them dig for a Lotus Bloom early. That's the whole idea, with Sleight of Hand being the better play on turn 1, specifically because it gets them an extra look on a Lotus Bloom they can suspend T1. Other than that, Serum Visions is a stronger cantrip, especially against a mid-range deck. That's a bit of a higher priority take. But, you know, obviously if they're looking set up to do the 3-card Thassa's Oracle combo, you can take away pieces that pertain to that, or if it's looking more like the 2-card combo, you take away pieces that pertain to that. Pretty obvious, but in context, the decisions can definitely become a little less obvious, a little more complicated. Now, the other thing to keep in mind is the mana. As you saw in these games, Ad Nauseam needs a big burst of mana to go off. That's even pretty true for the 3-card 4-mana combo, because you need to do it as early as possible. You need specifically 2 blue, 1 black, 1 white, right? And when I say 4 mana and 6 mana, this is all assuming Angel's Grace is involved. If Phyrexian Unlife happens to be the combo piece that's the white half of either of these combos, we're looking at 6 and 8 mana, right? Different story. The moral here, though, is that you can profitably attack the Ad Nauseam mana base. If you're playing Rakdos, Blood Moon is a good card in here, and you should leave it in, especially because you'll be bringing in Artifact Destruction. These are definitely good avenues of attack. If Fulminator Mage is in your deck, I generally like playing Fulminator against Ad Nauseam. It will be, obviously, a bit of a call. What do you take out? What do you bring in? But you're going to be able to cut Fatal Pushes. Lightning Bolt is a relatively weak card. Any other creature removal is bad. But if you're on Rakdos with Angrath's Rampages and so forth, and especially if you're on BGX with Decay, Trophy, Pulse, those cards are all nuts here. And back to the land base, 2 planes is relatively stock. Sometimes you'll see like 2 planes in an island, or even 2 islands in a plains. I've seen a swamp in there too. At most, I've seen 4 basic lands, but 2 is more common than 4. I would say 2 or 3 is stock, but the point is Field of Ruin, Cleansing, Wildfire, even trophying the lands under some circumstances. These are good ways to get ahead too. So don't be afraid to take the route of attacking their mana sources, and that can include discarding out Pentad Prisms or a Lotus Bloom if you're on the play. Now, do know that if you commit yourself to that line, unless the progressions really go in the totally opposite way, you have committed yourself to that line. You have to keep attacking the land base. If they just keep making land drops off the top, you can spin your wheels a little bit. Know that it is a valid option, but you have to make the judgment call. And on average with discard, it's better to take non-land or non-mana spells, right? Because again, they can always make land drops off the top. If you're trading your spell for their land, that can create an imbalance in terms of who's actually doing things and who's actually, again, just kind of spinning their wheels. So all else being equal, I would probably lean on trying to break up the combos rather than definitely always attacking the mana. But under some circumstances, they'll be choked on mana. They'll keep like a tight 2-lander with a single Pentad Prism and a relatively high curve stuff. It's very valid to take the Prism. And it's very valid to, again, take those actions like Field of Ruin, Cleansing Wildfire, Blood Moon, Fulminator Mage. All these cards play very, very well against Ad Nauseam, and it behooves you to know not only what their structure of their land base looks like, but also the colors that they need. Because another aspect of attacking their land base with any of those effects is, okay, can we shut them off of color? Can we shut them off of black? Can we shut them off of white? Generally, that will happen. Rare occasions, especially with a list like this one, you could, I guess, shut them off of blue. You had, field them into fetching up planes, and then they don't have blue to cantrip or play Oracle. Whatever, that could happen too. The point here is familiarity. Know the structure of the deck if you can, right? And that will help you decide which angle of attack is best, and then which decisions within that broad strategy, which tactical decisions will help you there. Obviously, you need to expect Leyline of Sanctity post-side, so I don't generally believe it correct to aggressively mulligan toward discard effects, especially on the draw because they could have Veil of Summer. But even beyond that, if you keep a hand that's like post-side, it has like Tarmogoyf, Liliana, Abrupt Decay, that type of hand is not perfect. The perfect hand has turn 1 discard, and you're making them have Leyline to beat it. But yeah, I think that hand is pretty acceptable, right? You've got an aggressive threat. Tarmogoyf is going to get huge in this matchup. And you've got the Liliana attrition, and you've got Abrupt Decay to slow them down somehow, whether it be taking care of an early Pentad Prism or beating their combo outright with Phyrexian Unlife as the target, and anything in between. Ad Nauseam players, generally speaking, I don't think will be siding in Path to Exile against you, even though a lot of decks want to path the mid-range player. You've got, your attrition is so good against them that, they don't want to dilute their combo, any more than they already have to bring in the Veils and the Ley Lines, right? Those are the things you want to see, or you know you're going to see. Occasionally you'll see a Stray Path, a Stray Spell Pierce, stuff like that. It can definitely happen. If the opponent is to the point where they're bringing in like a Wear and Tear or Echoing Truth for fear of your Damping Sphere, you are forcing them to overboard just psychologically. I think overall that's good for you. The one exception to that would be if you're like Rectos playing the card Blood Moon, then it makes more sense, right? But that's one of many reasons I don't love static hate pieces like Damping Sphere in mid-range decks, because some of the time at least your opponents will be siding in to beat them when you don't even have them, right? Anyway, the other thing just to remember is that Lightning Storm is a card that can be hard cast. Some of you are now playing Shadow decks. Beware of going too low unnecessarily for Lightning Storm. Obviously, don't play afraid of losing to this card. If increasing the clock of your Shadow is there, you know, you should go for it. But there will be some circumstances where, like, growing the Shadow a little bit more, going from, like, 6 life to 4 life, doesn't change the clock. They either have Grace or Unlife, or they don't, and if they have it, you can beat it next turn just the same. Don't put yourself in range of Lightning Storm more than you need to, all else being equal. But again, a very, very minor consideration. Remember that a turn 1 Lotus Bloom comes down on turn 4. Remember to pop out the exile zone to keep track of it so you don't forget it. Remember in paper to somehow track it. However, that's going to be usually the Ad Nauseam player will use a dice, but keep this stuff in mind. Collector Oof is a good hate card against the deck because they are so reliant. It's rare for Ad Nauseam to successfully combo off in a timely enough fashion and with a critical mass of the cards that they need without having at least one artifact involved. At least one Pentad Prism, at least one Lotus Bloom. The vast majority of the time they will have those things. So, you know, Collector Oof, it's a beater, and it hates out the ramp. That's the type of thing we want. That's the type of thing we love. It's not a static hate piece, it is proactive. It's a hate piece that shuts off a whole lot of what they're trying to do and is getting in for 2 every single turn. It is not as common as it used to be, but do realize that Ad Nauseam can play Bantu's Last Reckoning or other sweeper effects, so kind of like with the Shadow advice against Lightning Storm, if you're just playing threats just to play threats and you know that like it's overwhelmingly lethal, it doesn't change anything, they either have the hate, or they have the white card to stay alive, or they don't, basically. Yeah, don't play like an extra Scooz or something for no reason, right? Because you're just asking to get Wrathed away, and then you have nothing to rebuild and try to close out the game with. Other than that, you know, what you're looking at, again, the Wraths are not that common anymore, and what you're looking at is pretty close to a representation of all the different stock Ad Nauseam lists you would see. So any other questions on how Ad Nauseam works or how to approach any specifics with mid-range, as always, let me know. Until then, I hope you enjoyed this. These were some fun games, some quick games, and it is cool, I think, for some people to see non-expert, non-practiced play from somebody who comes from a different school, playing a different archetype. So I come from the school of mid-range, that's where I put most of my hours, and, you know, this is a combo deck. You have to think differently. Sometimes that can be refreshing, though, right? Seeing a mid-rangey mind taking on the prospect of a almost solitary puzzle at times, trying to find the best way to combo off with a deck like Ad Naus. Ultimately, it's not as good as like a well-drilled Ad Nauseam player would be, but it's still a fun, fresh perspective, I hope. Anyway, I always have lots of fun playing this deck. It's satisfying to me. It's a good change of pace from mid-range. Hope you had fun watching it. Thank you once again to our newest Patreon supporters. Where is the thing? There's the thing. Jeffrey Gow here at the Inquisitor slot. Gold Sabretooth all the way up to Of the Veil. We love both of those guys and everybody in between all across the tiers. Thank you for your support. And I'll see you tomorrow for hopefully some discussion on what got banned. Hopefully it's not just an announcement of an announcement, right? But until then, my friends, have a great day and I'll talk to you soon.